No, the girl in the first Avenger isn't Peter Quill's grandmother, making Steve Rogers Star-Lord's grandfather. Meredith Quill was in her 20s in the late 70s, so she was born somewhere in the 50s. So that's either the longest pregnancy in history, a teenage pregnancy on a Disney outlet, or it's just simply nonsense. And we already saw Meredith's father in the hospital scene in Guardians of the Galaxy, so just forget about it. Hello, and welcome to the Review of Champions. It's time to talk about She Hulk Attorney at Law, Episode 1 A Normal Amount of Rage. With me are a few very decent people, which I dearly missed for the last few weeks. Starting with you, Merv. How are you doing?
Hello. Fantastic.
Great. Taylor?
Hey, doing good.
Great to hear. Voice only from the great beyond, sitting on his throne room in Hades, Mr. Lord Deathman.
I am awesome today. Thank you, sir.
And last but not least, our female panel member, Lokismom. How are you doing today?
I'm doing really, really well. How about y'all?
I'm doing great as well. Um, Before we start, I would like to ask you all to hit that like and subscribe button and maybe join our forum on sakar.freeforums.net. It's a nice little community full of nice fans. Some of them are here. And we would love it if you join and sign up and join the conversation. If you want, you can be on the show as well. We're open to everyone. We're going to talk spoilers, so if you haven't seen the episode, go check it out and come back to the video. So let's just dive into it. And we're going to do it this a little bit different this time. I'm going to ask questions to the panel members, and they can elaborate on what they liked about the show or not. And hopefully we get some discussion going. And I'm going to start with Mr. Lord Deathman. And my question to you, sir, is we got another Tony Stark reference in a MCU Phase 4 project. Isn't it enough? Don't we rely on Tony Stark, Iron Man, too much in the MCU?
That's a good question. I don't know. I don't think there's an over-reliance on Tony Stark references, and I thought that the ones in this particular show kind of fit. It seems that the Science Bros would have got together and made their secret little hideout with all of their testing stuff, and he would have helped out with the Smart Hulk banner, integration and all of that. Honestly, I'm a big Iron Man fan, so I wouldn't mind if we had a few more Iron Man references. I'm sure there's plenty of stuff Tony did before he died that will turn out to be a surprise for us in the future.
Okay, I'm going to double down a little bit now. I saw a video recently on TikTok. I'm sorry, I shouldn't do it, but I'm still there. And I saw that there was a Tony Stark reference or an Iron Man reference in every single project in the Phase 4 of the MCU. And that's why I came to this question. I think it's a bit much. I mean, the character's gone. They don't give Steve Rogers the same courtesy, although this time they did. But that's why I asked this. So I do think it's a lot. But what did you think of the first episode of She-Hulk?
I thought it was pretty good. There's not much to complain about given the lean runtime for the show. So I'd be surprised. I haven't had a chance to look at what the fandom thinks of this show. I just watched it a couple of hours myself. So I was pretty happy with it. I thought it was pretty entertaining, somewhat amusing. There are a few things that didn't quite land, but they weren't enough to take me out of the show. And it's kind of nice to get back to basics with Hulk action, that type of superhero action where things get destroyed.
Like a bar. It does feel a little bit like Ally McBeal on gamma radiation steroids. Yeah, you never watched that show, right?
I never watched Ally McBeal, so I like
Well,
all the guys that I know. They're like, yeah, I totally watched Ally McBeal, and I'm like, oh, you did? Oh, okay. Yeah, never got around to it.
Okay.
But do I have let's see, a legal show point of reference. No, legal dramas are definitely not my thing. But yeah, as far as like, if this was going to be like courtroom drama where, the She-Hulk is giving testimony all the time, I might have a pause there. But this is pretty good for a legal show.
Okay. Well, maybe Taylor can shed some light on this. Is this Is this going to be a lawyer show like Ally McBeal, or is this more superhero stuff going around? That, by the way, that's my question for you.
I think going forward, we're going to see a little bit more of the legal stuff. I think there's going to be a significant amount of lawyer talk and cases involving superpowered people. I mean, just going by the trailers. So I think going forward is going to be there's definitely going to be similarities with Ally McBeal and other courtroom comedy or dramedy shows.
What do you think of the show so far? First episode?
I thought the first episode was good. There wasn't much in it that we hadn't already seen in the trailers. It was very much an establishing episode. Showed us how she got her powers. Bruce tried to help her, give her some idea of what her powers do and how to control them. We saw the differences between her situation and Bruce's situation. As to, they didn't explain all the science behind it, but obviously she got her powers in a different way. Plus her DNA is different, so her ability to control it and still have her own mind and only be one person. That was all explained to us, and now we know going forward we don't have to ask that question. It's there for whatever reasons. So yeah, I think the show did a good job. It was entertaining. I think it did a good job of setting up the situation. And I mean, it didn't give us any real indication as to what's coming next, other than she's going to continue being a lawyer, and from the trailers we know she's going to be involved with representing superheroes or superpowered individuals.
Yeah, and of course they cleverly introduced what I believe is the main villain of the show, Titania, if I say that correctly. Comic book people can correct me.
Titania.
Titania, sorry. In the last actually minute of the episode. So I think actually, from my point of view, Disney Plus shows from Marvel, they have a tendency to reveal like how people get their powers, or let people get their powers in the fifth episode, and now they immediately go for it in the first episode. I actually thought it was a breath of fresh air, as you guys say. Lokismom, I have also a question for you. Those Sicarians, what are they up to, and what did you think of the first episode of She-Hulk, Attorney at Law?
Okay, now who were the people on
the spaceship that showed up? What made them crash with their car?
Okay. The Sicarian ship. Yeah. Oh yeah, I liked it. I really liked the first episode. I thought it was really funny. I laughed out loud several points. I mean, I'll echo what you guys have said, that it establishes, it gave us her story in a very entertaining, funny way. We got to see Bruce Banner Hulk, for I don't know, probably may or may not be in much of the rest of the episodes, but we'll see. I think he might maybe back off a little bit more from the story or the narrative. But anyway, yeah, I thought as far as first episode, opening episode, I didn't realize it was going to be a 30-minute episode. I wished it could have been a regular hour. I'm not a real big fan of watching the 30-minute episodes unless I'm going to do it as a binge watch. Otherwise, I mean, I don't have any complaints at all about it. I thought what's the actress? What's her name?
Tatiana Maslany.
Yeah, she's wonderful. She's a very good actress. She has a lot of charisma and everything, and I think that's certainly going to enhance her character as she plays it, because she's really, despite what's happened to her, she's really taking it well, and she's, so okay, I'm a Hulk now. She's gonna, whatever. That's not going to let her stop her from being what she is, and that's a lawyer. out to help people or whatever it is that she's defend people in court and whatnot. So the Sakaar ship, yeah, that kind of, and I love the Sakaar's type style ships, by the way. I just love that fin and the coloration on it and everything. It's the one that we saw in the TV was a little more dull than the one that we saw in Ragnarok, the really fancy party boat. And so yeah, what the Sakaarians are going to be or wanting with her or whatever, not necessarily her, but whatever they're doing on Earth, and I guess Hulk's going to find that out. Going to work on that part, maybe as a side plot there. But overall, I'd say about a.
Wait. Oh, I will come back to that. I don't want to know your number yet.
I was going to do a percentage, but I'll wait.
Merv, Lokismom spoke about Hulk, Bruce Banner in this case. And there's some criticism on the MCU that we really haven't seen Hulk hulking out for a while now. But there are some rumors he might show. Judging on the first episode, what we saw a hulky fight. Him versus her. Is this symbolic in some way? But anyway, do you think we will see Bruce Banner hulking out again and be Rage Hulk fight, smash, destroy? You know what? Smash evil.
In this show, probably not, but down the road, yes. I definitely think whether the show leads to it or, like you kind of saw it like for a second after the crash, like right after she turned into She-Hulk, he kind of like screamed and flipped out. And then there's like moments where he seems to break his cool, and I'm just waiting for the monster to come back, the professor to take a sideline and Monster Hulk to come back and take over, take over Bruce.
Mm-hmm. So what do you think of this first episode?
I really liked it. Yeah, but any complaints I have are minuscule compared to the enjoyment I had. I rewatched it 2 times, and I just enjoyed it, and I laughed at so many different parts every time. It's not perfect, but it doesn't need to be, and I kind of, especially given that last courtroom scene, like where it's kind of just random feeling and aloof, like that, I'm perfectly fine with that tone. With it just like super villain pops into the courtroom, She-Hulk punches her, and now I'm gonna pose for the camera. I'm perfectly fine with that. That works for me, as long as it maintains a comedic tone throughout and doesn't try to get too serious with those types of scenes.
Mm-hmm.
But if it does that, then we'll see how it plays out. But I really liked it. Really liked this first episode.
Mm-hmm. Any criticism?
For me,
yeah.
Only a little bit of it's a little heavy-handed with the, I'd want there to be at least some men in She-Hulk's life that aren't total pieces of garbage or trying to control her, or, like that message got run into the ground by the end of the first episode a little bit. It didn't bother me, but I want there to be other problems other than all men are scum. You know what I mean? Again, it doesn't bother me too much in this first episode.
Well, I think now you touch on it. Okay, then I will speak my mind and ask the rest of the panel what they think. Especially, I want to hear from Lokismom. I think they did it very cleverly. They never said all men are trash or men are trash. They just said, I have experiences which are not so nice, and they come from men, certain men, some men, whatever. At least that's how they conveyed that message. I'm not a woman, so I can't say anything. I'm a man. I try to respect everyone in the world, in my world, man or woman, and not to bother them unnecessarily. But yeah, of course, I've seen this behavior as well around me. So I think it's good that they bring this up. So Lokismom, I give you the word first. How did you think they handled this subject?
Well, honestly, I didn't notice it. That it was being heavy-handed or saying anything about men in general. The only male that we're seeing in this first episode is Banner. So I mean, he's he's not heavy. I mean, he's trying to tell her what to do, but he's doing it in a loving, as a brotherly way. I mean, they're going to have that sort of brother sister relationship, which I think they can, which I think is a real positive, because the little snarky ping ponging off each other, picking at each other. I think that's really, trying to get the best of each other and whatever. I think that they played that real well. So, yeah, I mean, as far as all men are crap, I didn't see that at all. And hey, it's only the first 30 minutes. We'll see what happens the rest of the episodes.
Yeah, let's hope they dial that down, because I don't think it's necessary. Any further criticism, Taylor, Lord Deathman?
No, I agree with Merv about the heavy-handedness of it. I'm hoping they've checked that block now in the first episode, and they move past it, because it really was. I mean, when she's rehearsing her closing argument, of course it's the man who is being all condescending and saying I should come in and take over. Yeah, come on, maybe 40, 50 years ago. And then when she's talking to Hulk, she's like, I am more practiced at controlling my anger because I'm a woman and men treat me bad all the time. Well, yeah, like men never have to control their anger or anything. I'm allowed to throw stuff at work and no one fires me or anything. Okay, we get it. Check box has been checked. Let's move on.
Yeah.
Lord Deathman?
Yeah, the show obviously has a feminist energy to it. And I knew that coming into it, and I've read a little bit about what the showrunners and the producers had in mind. They seem to be very much on the side of feminism. Now, I think I sit in the camp of I'm on the fence with it. I'd like to see how much they either dial back or ramp that up as the series progresses. Are we going to get more sort of I'm a woman and I'm the greatest thing that ever came since sliced bread because I have to deal with men. So I just want to see how much more of that we get. But I'm actually in terms of She-Hulk sort of being full of win in terms of automatically becoming a Hulk that is well adjusted and isn't struggling with anger issues or things like that. It's kind of from the comic books. Jen Walters almost automatically becomes a superhero and doesn't really have those struggles with anger and repression and all that kind of thing that Bruce did. So I don't mind her being totally full of win. It is her show, but I do mind it when it comes at the expense of the Hulk, right? Like it's like he did have a rough upbringing. He did have to deal with an abusive household. He had all those things against him, and we shouldn't just be shoving Hulk in the corner just because he had to study hard to be a good Hulk, right? And it came effortlessly.
He had the army shooting at him for a few years too.
He's had some people hunting down, trying to kill him. Let's be kind to Hulk, right?
So you're saying you shouldn't blame him for not showing up to family dinners?
Absolutely. And again, I don't mind She-Hulk being full of win as a Hulk, but I really don't want it to come at the expense of making the Hulk sort of look like a toxic male, but because he's dealing with anger and some of these other things that she seemed to think was unacceptable. So yeah, but other than that, criticisms that I have for the show, I thought the special effects looked great. I thought the script was well. I thought the acting was great from Tatiana Maslany. She's doing a great job. She's one of those people that inserts herself really well into the MCU. She's a puzzle piece that fits perfectly. You're not like struggling with it or trying to get used to the idea. Like I think with Brie Larson, that was like, do I like this Captain Marvel? It might have taken you a little longer with some casting choices, but this just feels totally natural and like she was meant to be the She-Hulk. So I think they've checked a lot of boxes in terms of this being a good show. But I do side with a lot of the guys on the panel here in terms of they're at least walking a tightrope in terms of this feminist energy, and I want to see how far they're going to take it.
Yeah, but I judging purely on the first episode, I don't think it's justified to review bomb the show because She-Hulk or Jennifer Walters or Tatiana Maslany hates all men. Some people need to grow up. I see a hand up for a while
Yeah.
now. Loki's
Let me
mom.
ask you a question, guys. Now, do all of you think that it was overly feminist or borderline too feminist or whatever?
No, I think there was personally. I do get the vibe of a feminist vibe,
Right, right.
but I don't mind it. I, I, I think it's okay.
Yeah, and so do I. Just to clarify my comments, I'm all right with the feminist energy. It's a show about a female superhero. Totally cool. But I'm just kind of worried that that's going to come at the expense of characters like the Hulk. You know,
Well, I mean, I don't think it's what I'm hearing. I don't think it's your real offer for feminism, because she's behaving no differently than I think any other character, modern day character would. You know, in that situation, she's female. She's gonna have to assert. She's gonna have to be a little more overly, let's see, more tough. A female has to be more tough in certain jobs. You know, somebody say, oh, whatever, she's gonna have a freak out at work or whatever. Well, any woman that has a freak out at work is going to get fired, just like any man who has a freak out at work. I don't know where that came from, but anyway, and not to go way too. And what's wrong with having a feminist bent? I mean, my goodness, how more masculine? I mean, like going all the way back to the first movies. How long was it before they even had a prominent female character? They were all male. So I mean, that went on for quite a while. Then they began bringing in Black Widow, and they began to bring in more and more women, more and more to the fore in the narrative.
Yeah,
So I mean,
I just want to say that Black Widow was.
Let me finish. So what I'm saying is, what the hell's wrong with having the feminist bent to it?
Not much.
Yeah.
Feminism is a part of society. It should be.
Yeah, exactly.
But just like in the third movie, they introduced the third Avenger, which was Black Widow. So it's not like they waited like 20 movies before they introduced a female character.
No, I'm saying, but how long before she got her own movie?
Oh yeah, okay.
It was an afterthought. It was an afterthought to the other movies. But anyway, moving on. That's just. I think some of you guys. I think you're being a little too sensitive here. Like I said, it's only the first 30 minutes. Being a little bitch is part of her character. That's what she's being. She's a bitch.
Oh, she's quite assertive, yeah.
So yeah,
well,
that's part of the character, and just take it easy, guys. It's going to get better.
I just want to say that in the comic books, in contrast to the comic book character of Jennifer Walters, who's a little mousier and a little shy before she becomes the She-Hulk, she's not an assertive woman in the comic books, at least, origin wise. And then she suddenly becomes the She-Hulk and gains all of this confidence and that kind of thing. But they're doing it slightly different on the TV show, where Jennifer Walters seems to be equally as confident. I don't think she's worried about, sort of being too mousy or not assertive or invisible or any of those kinds of things women struggle with in the workplace. So her and She-Hulk are pretty much confident gals, and I'm perfectly fine with that.
Okay, we had trailers, and judge those trailers. They when they came out, the word on the Twitter online was wonky CGI. It's so bad. It's terrible. The show is gonna suck because of the CGI. Well, Taylor, I want to know, did it?
No, the CGI was fine. I never complain about CGI because I don't really care. I care about story.
I know.
But there was nothing wrong with this CGI. Personally, I was in the fandom leading up to this. My opinion was they should do it the other direction. They shouldn't have a CGI body for for She-Hulk. They should have found a muscular actress, and if they had to CGI her in the other direction, like Steve Rogers before the Super Soldier Serum, they should have done it that way, and just use CGI to make her taller, like do the Hobbit thing from Lord of the Rings, just to make her look bigger. But that was just my personal opinion of how I would have liked to have seen it done. they chose to go with the CGI body for She-Hulk, and that's fine. And all the CGI in the show has been fine. There was never any point, like I said, even when this does happen, even when something does have blatantly bad CGI, it doesn't bother me. But I didn't see any bad CGI in this show. It all looked fine to me.
Yeah, to me as well. Merv, agree here?
I agree. It doesn't look bad, and for whatever reason, I was definitely critical of it on the first teaser, but by the second trailer or teaser or whatever it was, but either I got used to it or they did it better, because it just didn't seem as what's that term for like when things look too real or like,
Uncanny.
yeah, that uncanny valley look or whatever that was going on with that first teaser. For me personally, like it didn't come through to the next one, or I got used to it. Either way, it works out good for me because it didn't bother me at all in this first episode. I thought it was great. And I was worried initially whenever they just showed like a quick flash of her in like the car door whenever she first transforms, and then you see her for like 2 seconds outside the bar before she gets tackled. I was worried they were gonna underplay the She-Hulk so that they didn't have to do as much CGI, but then we got like a several minute long Hulk on Hulk fight scene that perfectly satisfied my hulkiness, wanting to see that. So I was I was pleasantly happy with it.
Yeah, and Lord Deathman, shouldn't the fandom have learned by now not to judge the CGI based on a trailer, because usually they come out like 6-7 months before the actual product is done, and they have a lot of time to work on those shots. So
Yeah. You would think that the fandom should have learned that lesson by now. I mean, there are the people, the visual effects artists who are making the show, and then there's marketing. And marketing's like, look, guys, it's 3 months ahead of this thing, and I need something. I gotta cut together a trailer. I gotta put together some taglines. I gotta get some groovy music to get people hyped about this. So you might get some unfinished work in that marketing product, but that doesn't mean that that's what it's going to be in the final product. But for me, I will admit that the first trailers, it did take me a while to get used to the way that She-Hulk looks. But I acclimated quite quickly. And honestly, I think that the CGI, I mean, what could you expect for? I don't get the idea that it should have been a pixel perfect, photorealistic 6'7" giant green woman. That doesn't happen in life. So there's no need to actually make it look like it is happening in real life. I think you could be much more stylized with the character than realistic, much like a comic book would be. So I'm pretty happy with the CGI, and in many ways when I look at the facial expressions, She-Hulk has a lot more facial emotive range than the Hulk. She registers happiness, surprise, laughter, and dignity. That's not something you see like really often with the Hulk. And in some ways, it's kind of weird to look at her on like a 4K screen with Dolby Atmos and all that stuff. I'm like, this is kind of getting into the valley of the uncanny, because it looks so much like Tatiana Maslany. I think the visual effects guys have done a really great job with it, personally.
Yeah, I have to agree here. Okay, I think we unpacked the first episode. So I want to hear some ratings. And I will start with you, Lokismom. What did you rate the first episode out of 10?
Yeah, I'm going to give it. Well, first episode, I'm going to say that 7.5.
Decent, fair enough. Merv?
I'll give it 8. 8 out of 10. That was very, very enjoyable. I watched it 3 times, so.
Yeah, you don't watch anything 3 times if you don't enjoy it.
Hardly.
Taylor?
Yeah, I'll give it an 8 out of 10 also. I was kind of surprised it wasn't funnier. I mean, there were some humorous parts to it, but we've been told, it's going to be a comedy. But I think when we get into the courtroom shenanigans and her life and the, interacting with people, it's going to get a lot more humorous than it was this time. I mean, there were some funny parts between her and Hulk, but overall, it wasn't very funny, but I think it's going to get much funnier going forward, and I think it's going to become more of a courtroom, workplace comedy type of show. But as of now, I'm very happy with the first episode. So yeah, 8 out of 10.
Good to hear. Lord Deathman.
You know, I'm going to go as high as a 9. I really enjoyed what I saw, and there are 2 reasons that I'm giving this show. I'm probably giving it a higher grade than it deserves, but there's 2 things about the show that really strike me as being unique when you compare it to other Disney Plus shows and Marvel movies that we get. One, we have a really reluctant superhero here who is trying to balance these new superpowers and whatnot with a regular life that she wants to lead as a lawyer. I think that's a fairly unique thing to the MCU. Everybody else kind of is like, yeah, I'm ready to gear up and go into outer space. Let's do it. But she's like, I think I'd rather be in the courtroom. And then, for lack of any tactful way to say this, the She-Hulk seems pretty horny. Even in this first episode, she's got sex on the brain. She wants to know if Captain America did it. It looks like we're gonna get more of her sex life going on, and I'm kind of really happy with the MCU for being able to kind of tackle sex, frankly, in a way that's fitting into the MCU formula. So I'm giving it a 9.
I'm impressed. I'm gonna go with a 7. I liked it. I enjoyed it. I hope there's going to be more and better things to come on the show in the future. So I'm going in with a 7 and see where it goes. So.
Yeah, can I add and just what you were, Lord Deathman was saying about? Yeah, I think they stretched the little adult content a little bit here, kept it PG-13. But yeah, what they talked about, maybe setting up for some sexy scenes or whatever. Let's see what She-Hulk does when she falls in love or something like that. That may be set up for some future episodes. And yeah, and I'll add one more thing, just as far as encountering certain types of folks, certain types of. I worked for a very long time, 47 years in transportation and trucking. I was very much part of inserted into the very male, masculine environment, and I got some stories I could tell you about some things, but I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Yeah, it's a children's show, so let's not dive into that.
Exactly. Yeah, I don't want to get too heavy-handed, but yeah. If you wanted to take it that conversation in a certain direction, I think there's another side to it that can be told.
Okay. I think with that, we conclude our review for episode 1 of She-Hulk, Attorney at Law, a normal amount of rage. Before we finish, I would like to ask you all again to hit the subscribe button and notification bell on YouTube. Follow us on Twitter, like our Facebook page, join the forum on Sakar. That way you will never miss us, and we won't have to miss you. Bye.